The morning
이게
Ara
어떻게
Kim
된
married a
일이죠?
poor driver.
세세! 저
No one
사람들
in the wedding
누구야?
hall expected what would happen next.
이게
The
어떻게 된
ceremony
일이죠?
had barely begun when
세세!
5
저
black
사람들
luxury
누구야?
cars suddenly pulled up outside the chapel.
이게 어떻게 된
Men in
일이죠?
dark suits stepped out
세세!
one by
저
one.
사람들 누구야?
And when the doors opened, everyone in the
이게
room
어떻게 된
slowly
일이죠?
turned toward the groom.
세세! 저
Because
사람들
those
누구야?
men were bowing to him.
이게
Ara's
어떻게
heart
된
started
일이죠?
racing.
세세!
Because
저
the
사람들
man they were
누구야?
bowing to was supposed to be just
이게
a
어떻게 된
driver.
일이죠?
My name is Ara Kim. I was 29 years old and living in Seoul, working as a wedding planner. Ironically, I had organized hundreds of beautiful weddings for other people. But I never imagined mine would turn into something like this. Especially not with the man standing beside me. Joon-ho Park. The quiet driver I fell in love with. I first met Joon-ho 2 years earlier. It was raining heavily that night in Seoul. My car had broken down outside a luxury hotel where I was coordinating an event. While I stood in the rain trying to call a mechanic, a black sedan slowly pulled up beside me. The driver rolled down his window. "Do you need help?" he asked quietly. That was the first time I saw him. At that moment, I had no idea that simple ride home would change my entire life. Joon-ho was different from anyone I had ever met. He was quiet, almost mysterious. But he always listened carefully when I spoke. He never bragged, never complained, and never tried to impress anyone. In fact, he once told me something that surprised me. "I like living simply," he said. "Money only complicates life." I believed him. But there was one strange thing about Joon-ho that I never understood. Despite being just a driver, strange things kept happening. Sometimes expensive cars would stop when he walked by. Drivers would greet him with deep bows. Once, I even saw a hotel manager panic when Joon-ho entered the building. When I asked him about it, he only smiled. "You're imagining things," he said. But deep down, I knew something didn't add up. 2 years later, we decided to get married. Some of my friends questioned my decision. Especially Min Seo. "You're marrying a driver," she asked. "You could do so much better." But I didn't care. I loved him. And on that morning, I thought love was enough. Until the wedding ceremony began. And those black cars arrived. The wedding hall fell completely silent. One of the suited men walked forward slowly. He stopped in front of Joon-ho, and bowed deeply. Then he spoke. "Chairman Park has arrived." My heart skipped a beat. "Chairman." But the next thing he said, nearly made me collapse. The man turned toward me politely. "Miss Ara Kim," he said. "Allow me to congratulate you. You have just married the heir to the Park Sung-jin Group." My mind went completely blank. Because that company was worth billions. Joon-ho finally looked at me. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I wanted you to love me for who I was, not for my money." The quiet driver I fell in love with was actually the son of one of the richest men in Korea. But the biggest shock was still coming, because as Chairman Park walked toward us, his cold eyes moved slowly across the room. And when they landed on Min Seo, his expression suddenly darkened. The wedding hall was no longer filled with music and laughter. Instead, whispers spread through the crowd like wildfire. Guests stared at Joon-ho as if they were seeing a completely different person. Just minutes earlier, they thought he was a poor driver. Now they were discovering he was the heir to one of Korea's largest business empires. I could barely breathe. I turned slowly toward him. "Why, didn't you tell me?" I asked quietly. Joon-ho didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked toward his father. Chairman Park Sung-jin stepped forward slowly. He was a man whose presence alone commanded power. His sharp eyes studied me carefully. "So," he said. You're the woman my son risked everything for. His words made my heart race. Because the way he said it didn't sound like approval. Then he said something that shocked everyone. You should know something, Miss Ara Kim, Chairman Park continued. My son did not simply hide his identity for fun. He paused. He did it, to test you. The guests gasped softly. My stomach tightened. A test? Chairman Park's voice grew colder. Many women have tried to get close to my son for his wealth. He glanced toward Minesio again. And some people here still have their own intentions. Minesio looked away quickly. But I noticed something strange. She looked nervous. Very nervous. That was when Joon-ho suddenly grabbed my hand. Father, Joon-ho said firmly. This wedding is not a business negotiation. The room froze. Because no one dared speak to Chairman Park that way. Joon-ho looked at me gently. I didn't test you because I doubted you, he said. I did it because I wanted to experience a normal life, even if only for a little while. His words softened my anger. But one question still burned in my mind. How many secrets are you still hiding from me? I asked. Joon-ho hesitated. And that hesitation scared me. Before he could answer, the wedding hall doors suddenly opened again. Another man walked in. He was tall, sharply dressed, and clearly furious. His eyes locked directly onto Joon-ho. So this is where you've been hiding, he said coldly. My heart skipped a beat. Because the tension in Joon-ho's face instantly changed. Then the man said something that made the entire room gasp. Congratulations on your wedding, the man said sarcastically. But unfortunately, this marriage might not last very long. The room erupted into whispers again. Chairman Park's eyes narrowed dangerously. Leave, he said coldly. But the man smiled. Oh, I will, he replied. Right after I reveal the truth. Then he pulled out a phone. And played a recording. A woman's voice filled the silent wedding hall. And the moment I heard it, my blood ran cold. Because that voice belonged to my best friend Minesio. And what she was saying about Joon-ho could destroy everything. The entire wedding hall stood frozen. The only sound echoing through the room was the recording playing from the man's phone. Then the voice spoke again. Clear. Familiar. Cold. Joon-ho Park may think he's hiding his identity well, but I already know who he really is. My heart pounded violently. Because there was no doubt anymore. That voice belonged to Minesio. But what Minesio said next was even worse. The recording continued. Minesio's voice sounded calm, almost calculating. I've been watching him for months, she said. If I can get close to him, the Park family fortune could finally be within reach. Gasps rippled through the guests. I felt like the ground beneath me was disappearing. My best friend had been plotting something like this. But the recording wasn't finished yet. Minesio's voice continued. An era is the perfect opportunity, she said in the recording. She trusts me completely. My chest tightened painfully. Every memory we shared flashed through my mind. Years of friendship. Laughter. Secrets. All of it suddenly felt like a lie. But then the recording revealed something even darker. The man holding the phone smirked slightly as the recording played the next sentence. I don't actually care about Ara, Minesio said. My goal is Joon-ho. If I can expose his secret before the wedding, I can ruin his reputation. The room exploded with whispers. Chairman Park's expression turned dangerously cold. Then something unexpected happened. Suddenly, Minesio pushed her way through the crowd. Stop it, she shouted. Her voice trembled. That recording is manipulated. But the man holding the phone laughed quietly. Oh really, he said. Then maybe everyone should hear the rest. And when the next part played, even Joon-ho looked shocked. Min Seo's voice spoke again in the recording. But there's one problem. I think I'm starting to fall for him. The room fell silent again. My mind spun with confusion. Was she lying? Or telling the truth? But the biggest twist of all came from someone I least expected. I took a slow step forward. My heart was still racing. But suddenly, something inside me became calm. I turned toward Min Seo. You should leave, I said quietly. She stared at me in disbelief. But I wasn't finished. Because there was something Min Seo didn't know. I looked directly into her eyes. You tried to destroy my wedding, I said. But you forgot something important. Min Seo's expression tightened. What? She asked. I slowly held up my phone. Everything you said. I recorded it too. The room gasped again. And for the first time since the recording started, Min Seo looked truly afraid. The wedding hall was completely silent. All eyes were fixed on Min Seo. Her confident smile from earlier had completely disappeared. She looked around the room desperately, as if searching for someone to defend her. But no one spoke. Not even the guests who had once admired her. Chairman Park stepped forward slowly. His voice was calm, but cold enough to freeze the entire room. Miss Min Seo-han, he said. You have just admitted to attempting to manipulate my son for personal gain. Min Seo shook her head quickly. No, that's not what I meant. But the fear in her eyes said otherwise. Chairman Park turned to the man who brought the recording. Escort her out, he ordered quietly. 2 security men approached. For the first time in years, Min Seo looked completely powerless. As they led her toward the door, she turned back to me. Her eyes filled with anger. You think you've won, Ara, she said bitterly. But I didn't respond. Because at that moment, I simply felt tired. The chaos slowly began to settle. Guests whispered quietly among themselves. But my attention was only on one person. Joon-ho. He walked toward me slowly. For the first time since the revelation, his confident expression had softened. I'm sorry, he said gently. For all the secrets. His voice carried something I hadn't heard before. Fear. Fear that he might lose me. I looked into his eyes. You lied to me, I said softly. Yes, he admitted. But I never lied about loving you. For a moment, the entire room seemed to disappear. There was only the two of us. Then he reached for my hand. This time, he said quietly. No more secrets. The ceremony eventually continued. But even as we exchanged our vows again, I noticed something strange. Chairman Park was watching me. Not with anger. Not even with suspicion. But with curiosity. Later that evening, as the reception ended, he approached me privately. You handled today better than most people would, he said. I wasn't sure how to respond. Then he said something that completely surprised me. You passed the test. I blinked. The test? I asked. He nodded slightly. My son wanted to know if you loved him without his wealth. But I wanted to know something else. His eyes met mine. Whether you were strong enough to survive this family. A small smile finally appeared on his face. Welcome to the Park family, Ara. And suddenly, I realized something. Marrying Joon-ho hadn't just changed my life. It had placed me in a world far more powerful and dangerous. than I ever imagined.